The year actor William went bankrupt, heiress Helen ordered to ruin his face. But after he used my resources to make a comeback, he kept her hidden and close by at all times, saying he wanted sweet revenge. He wouldn't let her stray more than 3 meters away and made her eat, drink, and sleep with him. He said he wanted her to lose her freedom, so he gave her a $5 million a month allowance that she had to spend. But when both Helen and I were kidnapped, he rescued her first, letting me fall into the deep sea, torn apart by sharks. When I reincarnated and saw Helen bringing people to confront William, I pretended not to see and turned away. This time around, I wondered, William, without that face, how will you make your comeback? News of actor William rebuilding his family's empire single-handedly spread across the internet. The genius businessman and once fallen star became the new sensation in his 7th year after being sidelined. Now, facing reporters, he was calm and composed, cracking jokes with ease, exhibiting a cool, superior aura. A reporter asked, "William, what's your biggest regret?" With a slight squint, his eyes flickered with emotions that were hard to read. "I lost a bouquet of my favorite jasmine, and I want it back." The screen froze on William's words. It was my 7th year with William. I had never seen him so deeply regretful, so emotional. I pushed open the window, looking at the garden full of jasmine, feeling a chill. He knew full well my favorite was roses. Loving a person like loving a flower, William's favorite bouquet was Helen, the woman who almost scarred him for life. To get back at her, he trapped her by his side, yet today I found out his true intentions. The entire jasmine garden was for Helen. "Emily, what does it matter if you built him an empire? He loves me the most." Helen laughed coquettishly, charm overflowing. "Emily, thank goodness you saved him 7 years ago, or he'd never have the glory he has now. It's such a drag that he forces me to spend $5 million a month, spending as I please." The moment the secret was revealed, it felt like a dagger pierced my heart, wounding me deeply. Memories of William and me flashed through my mind. William, whom I had idolized for so long. When I saw Helen trying to ruin him, I stepped in to save him. I couldn't bear to see it all taken from him, even his handsome face. I allowed Helen a share of our company's collaboration profits to save him. At first, I viewed him solely as an idol. But he treated me like a boyfriend would, caring and attentive. Working late, he'd pick me up from the office and take me home. If I fell ill, he was by my side, thoughtful every step of the way. Not until my death did I realize it was all a ploy to make me fall for him so he could use my resources to make his comeback. To the media, he promised, "I'll only marry Emily. She's my savior." I supported him wholeheartedly, never doubting his intentions, constantly dreaming he'd marry me once he succeeded. But he said, "I can't rest easy without avenging Helen." So, he had me help him ruin Helen's family's business. Afterward, William kept Helen close, claiming it was revenge. Yet, he wouldn't let her leave his side, sharing meals, nights, and daily life. He claimed to strip her freedom but gave her a monthly $5 million allowance to spend. I lost myself in his warmth until the kidnapping revealed the raw truth. For his place in the world, William crossed many enemies. The day I tracked down Helen, William's foes found us too, kidnapping both me and Helen. He chased us to the island, where they offered him a choice, save one between Helen and me. Amidst the howling wind, Helen appeared unfazed, smiling innocently. "Guess who he'll save? He should save me." Night after night, he holds me, begs me not to leave him. But I wasn't the Jasmine he missed for 7 years. I spent 7 years aiding William's rise, helping him reach the top. Between Helen and me, I was his benefactor, she his nemesis. Confidently, I believed I'd be the one he'd choose. But when he called out Helen's name, I lost all hope. My 7 years of gratitude couldn't outshine his first choice. As they pushed me into the sea, Helen used the momentum to knock me deeper into the abyss, sinking me to my watery grave. My last glance at William showed his shattered eyes, blood red, as he rushed forward, only to be blocked by Helen. But none of it mattered anymore. The moment he let me go, my heart died too. Helen was always his pristine jasmine. Hilarious. She was the bloom on his heart's apex. And what of me? Duped into loving him, my pure love turned to his gain. Too bad I only discovered his deceit after death. In that moment of consciousness severance, regret and bitterness filled my heart. In another life, I swore, I'd never fall into the same trap. Even if Helen sliced William's face to bits, it would mean nothing to me. When my eyes opened again, news of top star William's family bankruptcy spread throughout the school. He went around begging people, hoping to recover any loss, even if it meant going to New York's most pampered little princess, Helen. At school, everyone was buzzing. Wow! William got dragged into the classroom by Helen. Seems like even a high flyer like William can't escape the clutches of the little princess. The scene in front of me was so familiar it almost brought tears to my eyes. Unbelievable. I'm back to the day 7 years ago when I saved William. Passing by the classroom, I hesitated and stopped. The classroom door was open. Helen was about to publicly humiliate William with no reservations. She wrapped a whip around her hand and lashed out. So what if you're a top star? You're still kneeling at my feet begging for mercy. William had sharp features, and his chiseled face was dazzling. Sweat dripped from his forehead, trickling down his face. He knelt there, bleeding. From the physical pain, William couldn't help but clench his fists, veins bulging on the back of his hands. He doesn't deserve that face. Get me hot water, I'm going to ruin it. Helen hated William's face because his profile resembled her first love. With William's talent, if no one saved him, 1 cup of hot water from Helen, and his acting career would come to a halt. Suddenly, William lifted his head, his bloodshot eyes landing on me. He had beautiful eyes, cold and noble. I used to get captivated by them. Veins protruded on William's forehead, and he pressed his hands to the ground, groaning. Emily. In a sea of students watching the drama, I just smiled at him. He'd better not fantasize about me saving him. At Helen's order, her sidekick immediately went to fetch hot water. The water dispenser was at the corner of the hallway. Before the sidekick could find a cup, I quickly turned on the dispenser's heater. 60 or 70 degree water wasn't enough? If it's not a full 100-degree burn, how can it compare to the pain of being torn apart in the deep sea by sharks? William, this lifetime. I want you to witness your beloved woman ruining that proud face of yours herself. The 100-degree water was handed to Helen, steam rising from the cup. Helen glared at William in disgust, turning to splash the hot water onto his face. Don't blame me, it's your face's fault. William instinctively dodged, managing to move just in time. Don't move. Helen fumed. With a single glance, her sidekicks blocked William's escape. He couldn't run now. The remaining half cup of water traced a perfect arc in the air. William reacted quickly, raising a hand to block, but only covering half his face. The other half, along with part of his neck, instantly turned a fiery red with large blisters. William's hands trembled, pain bulged veins on his hand, sweat dripping down. He was in excruciating pain, but the dignity of an actor wouldn't let him cry out publicly. Yet Helen wasn't satisfied, kicking William in the abdomen. Why did you dodge? I aimed to ruin your whole face. I find it annoying. William was weak now, half his face beat red. He didn't have the strength left to resist. William quivered his lips, eyes foggy, casting a hopeless look at me once again. Too bad, I wasn't going soft-hearted. Because this is exactly what he deserved. Helen tilted her chin, instructing her sidekick. Get another cup of water. One more splash could ruin his looks, might not even leave him fit to walk out the door. William knew this. He desperately grabbed Helen's hem. Spare me, I can make you a top star. Helen frowned, shaking William off with disgust. What do you mean? William's eyes flickered as he sincerely said. I'm willing to share all my resources with you, to make you a leading star, in exchange for sparing my face. Hearing this, I was momentarily stunned. In the past, when William kept Helen by his side, he mentioned her biggest dream was to become a sensation. But Helen's father was conservative and wouldn't let her show up in media, refusing to invest in her. William's words hit the nail on the head. But how did he know Helen's secret now? I didn't have time to think more. Helen looked interested. All right, how do you plan to help me? My agent arranged for me to join a romantic adventure show. Be my partner, and I'll personally bring you into the entertainment industry. William was a leading star, a young actor. His fame was intact as long as fans loved him. Coincidentally, that love show was planned by my entertainment company. William persuaded Helen in a few words. Great. I'll wait for you. After Helen and her crew left through the front door, I turned to leave through the back. But William suddenly rushed over, grabbing my wrist. Emily. William's eyes were bloodshot, a fiery intensity in them. Emily, how could you let them ruin my face? He stared intently at me, no longer the cold, noble figure he usually was. So, you don't want it anymore? I couldn't help but feel a wave of nausea. I jerked my hand away, staring at him. Is he reincarnated too? William didn't notice my probing gaze. He seemed caught in the memory of my past devotion, his voice hoarse as he asked. Emily, why didn't you save me just now? I raised my eyebrows, scoffing. Why should I save you? Getting your face ruined by Helen has nothing to do with me. And now you're questioning me? Are you nuts? After I finished speaking, I turned and left to hide the fact that I had been reborn, leaving William looking puzzled. In the days that followed while focusing on my career, I frequently heard news about William and Helen. The two of them had recorded a season of a dating show, but it didn't go well at all. Helen's spoiled princess attitude on the show really turned off the viewers. William finally found his long-lost Jasmine after 7 years, and I'm curious to see how happy he must be now. So, I decided to visit the set of the show. Each episode of this dating adventure show is live. But during the recording, there are breaks for interviews and other stuff. That day, when I came to watch, I just happened to walk by Helen's dressing room. She was in there, having a full-on tantrum. You want me to ask my dad for help? To get you business connections and resources, so your family can rise again? William, who do you think you are? Through the window, I saw William drop his head, letting Helen belittle and mock him. His fists were clenched, but he stayed silent, holding back his emotions. In the previous life, William, successful and dominant, controlled Helen. But now, the tables had completely turned. Do you know that since I entered the entertainment industry, my dad's cut off my credit card, and all my spending money is gone? William, even my dad's mad at me. How am I supposed to help you? William's eyes sparkled with desperate hope, and he eagerly said, Helen, he's your dad. If you just say a word for me, give me a chance, I can bounce back. Helen slapped William hard across the face. She really put some force behind it. His face turned an ugly shade of red, with blood oozing out. But what puzzled me is how he showed up on camera with a previously burned half face looking perfectly fine now. When Helen was done venting her anger, she suddenly smiled at him, mood swinging rapidly. All right, William. Just be obedient in the upcoming live streams, and I'll help you get that contract you want. Then she left quickly, missing the real show that followed. After Helen struck him, William's face quickly swelled and festered. His eyes, filled with embarrassment, were bloodshot, and he kept wiping the blood off, but the more he wiped, the faster it got worse. Now furious, William went into a rage in the dressing room, kicking chairs and almost tearing the room apart. I let out a cold chuckle. I loved seeing William crumble in failure. This is how he was originally meant to be. Without me, he's nothing. My intense gaze must have caught William's attention because he spun around sharply. Who's there? Our eyes locked. William came stumbling out as if he'd seen a savior. Emily, did you come all this way just to see me? I didn't reply directly, trying to get under his skin. Your face looks weird. William froze, hanging his head low, mumbling, I'll fix it. I'll fix it soon and become the way you liked. No wonder he looked flawless on camera, he'd been secretly getting it fixed at a cosmetic surgery clinic. But with his level of facial damage, fixing it would take consistent time and effort. Getting it back to this point so quickly must have involved some advanced tech. Once William gets a taste of this, he'll get hooked and fall deeper into the rabbit hole of cosmetic repair. Didn't you like me, Emily? I don't believe you're as shallow as those people, just liking me for my face. William stubbornly stared at me, his eyes red, voice low and rough. Emily, you're the only one who can help me now. The loan sharks are already breathing down my neck. In William's eyes, the 20-year-old me was still just a little girl blindly admiring him. Too bad he got it wrong. I gave a slight smile, replying without mercy. You've asked the wrong person, William. With how you look right now, why would you think you could please me? Even Helen makes me sick. William's eyes dimmed, and the hope in them disappeared in an instant. He stood there, trembling as if struck by lightning. Just as I turned to leave, he suddenly called out. Don't go. Emily, I'll change into the person you like. You always said I was the only one in the entertainment world you ever followed. I gave a mocking laugh, looking back at him. Do you even deserve it? Anyone might deserve it, but definitely not William. Ungrateful, he ignored the 7 years of my affection, and now he dares to expect me to still like him? Isn't that just disgusting? During the filming of the second episode, Helen still didn't hold her temper in check. All the adventure games were left for William to do alone, and he had to endure all the game punishments, while she just played the part of the lady. This made a lot of viewers furious and dissatisfied. This time, during a team game, Helen, to beat the opposing CP, even played dirty. She drove into the competition, which caused a young actor to fall and fracture her tailbone, needing medical attention. This sparked outrage. She hadn't even offered an apology after hurting someone and still smiled as she collected the prize? Is this the behavior of a rich brat? William brings this kind of person into the circle, bending over backwards to serve a spoiled heiress. What's he even getting out of it? Is William even a man? He can't muster a word in front of Helen? Fed up with watching them. As a result, before she even properly entered the scene, Helen's reputation took a huge hit. During the break, she was extremely upset about the online comments, shouting, "It's not my fault she's weak. It's just a tailbone fracture, she didn't die, what's the big deal?" William, don't you agree? William, standing to the side, nodded silently. Helen smiled with satisfaction and went to instruct the director. Since she's in the hospital now, just give all the camera time to me. Highlight me, I want everyone to love me. Her words left everyone in silence. Seeing the director staying silent, Helen shot him a disdainful look. Whoever disagrees, forget about succeeding in this industry. Miss Helen, it's not really up to me. Maybe you should talk to Emily. Helen turned and her gaze fell on me. She commanded directly. Add a highlight for me. I didn't agree with Helen. This is a live broadcast. If the camera focuses on you the whole time, sharp viewers will catch on. Helen gave a cold snort and said impatiently. So what? Can't we just hire some online trolls then? If you dare disagree, I'll have my dad stop working with your family. From now on, don't think about benefiting from us. My dad is someone who gets what he wants in high society, and neither you nor your wimpy dad can handle that. Helen probably doesn't know she won't be a high society princess for long. Ever since I was reborn, I've thought of many ways using knowledge from my past life. Helping my dad find allies to take down Helen's family is step one. Initially, I disagreed with adding highlights. But since Helen put it that way, if I didn't, it would be like missing an opportunity. Okay, I'll add highlights for you. Helen showed a satisfied smile. I smiled and said, first, you need to follow my plan. There's a scene about a romantic water ride. Are you in? Helen, eager to show off her body on camera, agreed immediately. But William, who'd been quiet, seemed triggered. He suddenly looked up, his voice excited. I don't agree. I sighed on purpose. Well, that's a shame then. Helen wouldn't let William interrupt the chance she'd worked hard for. William, what right do you have to disagree? Emily, go ahead with your plan. William doesn't have a say. I smiled contently, telling the director to start filming right away. The romantic water ride was filmed at a water club using the heated pool. Helen donned a sexy swimsuit, flaunting her young, beautiful body on camera. She jumped into the pool with a splash. William stood at the pool's edge, refusing to go in. His face was pale, and his fists were clenched. After Helen swam a lap and saw William still out of the water, she frowned and asked, William, why aren't you getting in? He wiped the sweat off his forehead and found an excuse. I caught a cold and don't feel well, so I'll skip swimming today. Helen nodded, a bit disappointed. Fine. But before William could relax, Helen pulled him into the water. He wasn't ready and fell in with a splash. Helen laughed out loud. Huh, William, scared of water? I couldn't help but smile at the scene in front of the camera. The show was about to start. Once William hit the water, he didn't lift his head. He just held his breath, his body slowly sinking. Helen frowned, confused. William, what are you up to? Ignoring his situation, she continued swimming. He kept holding his breath for another minute. Like an ostrich, William kept his head tucked, hiding his face in the water. Helen was getting impatient. What game are you playing, William? Helen was somewhat restrained in front of the camera. Despite this, viewers were getting suspicious. I thought William could swim, why is he holding his breath underwater? William's been holding his breath for 3 minutes now. He's going to run out of air soon. Is the crew going to do anything? If Helen hadn't dragged him in, this wouldn't be happening. Seeing William struggling with bubbling water, the director got worried. I quickly held the director's arm, urging him to wait. Hold on, zoom in the camera. For minutes had passed and I knew it was William's limit. Helen finally realized the seriousness. She panicked and went to pull William out of the water. Long breath holding made William weak, with no strength to resist. As Helen dragged him out, William's face surfaced. The director was stunned. I quickly zoomed in, capturing a close-up. The live chat exploded, and the internet was in shock. William's pale, damaged skin and burn marks were exposed without the Foundation's coverage. There were visible signs of attempted repairs, but modern technology's quick fixes had ruined his face. Ah! Helen screamed, pushing William away. She rushed to the poolside, hands trembling. I won't partner with an ugly freak. William's back hit the cold wall, her shrill cry making him alert. Realizing the camera was up close, William's brief clarity turned to panic. He covered his face with his hands. Stop filming. Who told you to shoot this? Viewers across the web saw William's changing expression. His once proud handsome face was ruined by his own actions, then brutally exposed by his beloved Jasmine. News of William's destroyed appearance shot to the top of trending lists. Overnight, the top-tier movie star William was knocked off his pedestal. The internet was buzzing with stuff about William. William disfigured. William soon going to be out of work. People had a lot to say about William's situation. Isn't this the time for William to be really insecure? No wonder he's sucking up to Helen so much. He's trying to become a rich son-in-law, right? So ugly. William's face clearly shows signs of cosmetic work. Why on earth is this handsome guy so insecure? Helen was scared off a long time ago. You think a rich heiress would be with an ugly dude? Dream on. The internet was right, Helen refused to be William's partner anymore. Overnight, William's career went down the drain. Every brand he was signed with announced they were dropping him, even swapping him out in upcoming shows. With his face now, William couldn't even show up in public. The hit to his career and mind left William totally broken. I saw him again a week later. It had snowed heavily all night. The moment I opened the door, there was William. William had been standing in the snow all night. No longer the man he once was, the cold, noble aura was gone, making him seem just like any regular person. Emily. Snowflakes were caught in his eyelashes, and snow covered his head. Emily, I'm homeless, I have no one. It's all Helen's fault. William's eyes welled up as he desperately said. I know you're soft-hearted. You used to like me, right? Can you take me in? As he spoke, hot tears fell, and he lowered his head, devastated. I actually liked you a lot, but I realized it too late. I thought heaven pitied me, giving me another chance. But I couldn't believe you'd avoid me like the plague. Emily, take me in. You're all I have. I moved my lips slightly, silently watching his crocodile tears. His show of deep emotion, he almost convinced himself. He's using his acting skills in the wrong place. I was fed up watching. Butler, throw him out. Don't let people like this in again. Don't want them freezing at the door and causing bad luck. William panicked immediately. In desperation, he kneeled right in front of me. Emily. If you don't believe me, I'll kneel here until you do. He thought putting on this act of deep affection would earn my sympathy. If he wants to kneel, let him. I'm curious to see how long he can keep at it. William knelt in front of my house, while snow drifted down around. It was freezing. He froze like a statue, eventually leaving in silence. I never saw William again after that. Each time I went to school, I felt like someone was following me. When I turned back, there was never anyone there. One day, I glanced at the calendar and remembered something. I found a quiet place and immediately called my dad. Dad, be safe abroad, and make sure you get regular checkups. In my past life, my dad was always overworked, neglecting food and rest, leading to stomach cancer. Remembering him laying frail in a hospital bed stung deeply. Dad, don't brush off what I'm saying. Regular checkups, eat well, you hear me? Before I finished, someone snatched the phone from me, hanging up forcefully. I looked up sharply, eyes meeting William's, who was restraining his anger. Emily, you've been lying to me this whole time. William's expression changed, his voice was hoarse. Did you come back to life too? His red eyes stayed on me, showing a hint of stubbornness. No wonder I've been feeling followed lately. William, so what if I did? In my past life, you chose Helen. Now when things didn't work out with her, you come to me? I looked him up and down, smiling coldly. How can you put on an act? You might not feel sick, but it makes me lose my appetite. William hastily explained. Emily, I know you're mad, but you've got me wrong. I'm truly sincere now, no lies. I stared at him mockingly. Do you think I'd believe that? After the life and death experience and 7 years of devotion. I had no feelings left for William, not even resentment. William's frail silhouette wavered, his pupils trembled as he murmured. I'll make you believe me. I know you've been blaming me, for not choosing to save you back then. I thought they'd never dare actually push you, so I picked Helen. In his view, my life didn't matter much. After all, he was willing to gamble with what he thought, never considering the what-if. Besides, I was pushed by Helen herself. I didn't feel like wasting words with William, turned, and left school. Since then, William seemed to have had an epiphany, no longer pestering me. I kept busy with school, taking part in various competitions, living fulfilled. Until that day, when I left school and the driver was stuck in traffic. I had just hung up the phone. Suddenly, big hands covered my mouth and nose. A suffocating feeling hit, my instinct was to reach for the knife at my waist. Then, a familiar voice sounded. Be gentle with her, just knock her out. It was William. I slowly put away my knife, faking unconsciousness and falling to the ground to play along. William, if you think life is tough, I'll personally send you off. After being tied up, I was stuffed into a car, taken all the way to an island. This scene was where I had faced death before. But it wasn't just me, Helen was there too. When Helen woke, panic filled her face, limbs bound, the tape on her mouth gone. Who are you guys? How much do you guys want? I can have my dad send it to you, just don't hurt me. I pretended to just wake up, glancing at William, who was rushing over with a worried look to save me. What a self-directed drama. The kidnappers made William choose between me and Helen. You can only save one of them. Hearing that, Helen's expression changed drastically. She looked at William as if he was her savior. William. Come save me. Her eyes were full of panic, and her voice trembled as she spoke. William, if you save me, I'll make sure my dad gives you resources to make a comeback. William took a couple of steps forward, ignoring Helen's desperate cries, his gaze fixated on me. Emily, how about I save you this time? I smirked sarcastically. He really was a top-tier actor, his skills unmatched. William's eyes were filled with intense emotion, and his voice carried a hint of regret. Emily, after you died, I realized I was wrong. I shouldn't have chosen Helen back then. Ever since you were gone, my soul just left with you. I was living a life worse than death. Now, the heavens have given me another chance to choose. I don't want to lose you again. I deliberately responded to provoke him. Isn't Helen the one you love the most? Isn't she your one and only pure white jasmine? Hearing this, William's eyes turned sharp, and his gaze was filled with hatred. No. How could I ever have loved someone who ruined my face? If it weren't for her, I wouldn't be like this now. She dragged me into this mess. We had an agreement, she would provide me with resources. But I was like a dog by her side, and she never looked at me differently from the start. William's eyes towards Helen were filled with intense murderous intent. I smiled faintly, a bit helpless as I reminded him. And how do you prove what you're saying is true? How do you expect me to trust you? Just saying it doesn't mean anything, right? A dog-eat-dog world is the most fascinating. I wanted to turn William into a sword filled with hate and have him strike at the woman he once loved. Helen was the first to notice something was off. Her face was full of fear, and her terrified eyes suddenly looked at me. Emily. I have no grudge against you. Why are you instigating this? No grudge against me? William was right about one thing. In the past life, with my family's immense power, those kidnappers didn't dare to throw me into the sea. At the crucial moment, it was Helen who, after getting free, pushed me into the deep sea. If this isn't considered a grudge, then what is? I lowered my eyes to hide the hatred in them, smiling gently. Helen, I didn't say anything. The one who has to make a choice is William, not me. William closed in on Helen step by step. Every step he took increased Helen's fear, her face going pale, her voice becoming increasingly sharp. William, if you believe her, you've fallen into her trap. I'll give you all the resources, I'll help fix your face, I'll apologize for everything. William's expression didn't change, his eyes blood red, filled with hatred. I'm like this all because of you. If I get rid of you, Emily will forgive me. We can go back to the past. Stop pretending, William's motives were never about me. In this lifetime, their positions were reversed. He hated Helen, pretending to seek my forgiveness satisfied his inner solace. Under Helen's screams, William was driven to the edge. He picked up a dagger, aiming it at her. Helen's eyes widened with terror. In the face of life and death, she threw herself at William with all her might. Caught off guard, he dropped the dagger with a clang. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Helen grabbed the dagger and slashed her bonds, aiming it at William. William. Have you gone mad? William laughed coldly, his eyes filled with sorrow. I'm crazy. All because of you. With that, William intended to push Helen into the sea as well. After all, falling into the deep sea meant no proof of death. But Helen was ruthless too. As she was pushed, she stabbed William with all her might. William, I will not let you go. Hot red blood flowed from William's hand. He doubled over in pain, sweat dripping from his forehead. Only dead men tell no tales. Helen's body rapidly fell from the sea cliffs. In the past life, William knew I couldn't swim and abandoned me without hesitation. But this time, the one thrown into the sea was Helen, and she could swim. She swam desperately in the water. Well, I wish her good luck. I thought this thrilling play would end here. Unexpectedly, William approached me directly. He reached out to grab my hand, but I easily dodged him. William, you don't seriously think I could forgive you for this, do you? I chuckled softly, looking at him coldly. I will never forgive someone like you. You killed Helen, and you killed my past self. Your hands are stained with blood, and it's filthy. You're disgusting, you know that? William's expression changed dramatically, his eyes flashing with intense anger. So, you were deceiving me all along, weren't you? I smiled without saying a word, which was as good as admitting it. Too bad, he realized it too late. William, barely holding back his pain, laughed maniacally. I told you, only dead men tell no tales. His stubborn gaze was fixated on me, his laughter dark and crazed. Emily, let's just end it all together. Maybe we could be reborn. After saying that, he lunged at me with all his might. He wanted to drag me down to the depths of the sea with him. Was he dreaming? I had already untied the ropes and pulled out the self-defense stun baton I'd been carrying. I cranked it to its max power and swung it at him hard. 7 hits, 1 for each of the wasted years in my past life. William's furious look instantly turned to weakness and trembling. He collapsed in pain on the ground, his bloodshot eyes staring at me. William, did you really think I'd be as unprepared as in the past? I untied the ropes the moment you started this drama. You think these puny tricks could hold me? You brought this on yourself, no one can save you now. While I was gone, the driver from my house already called the cops. William pushed someone into the sea himself, witnessed by the kidnappers and seen by me. He can't escape from this. William helplessly clutched his face, tears falling through his fingers. Emily, I thought you'd forgive me. Save that self-righteousness for the police. By the time the cops arrived, William didn't even have the strength to struggle. As they dragged him away, his eyes stayed fixed on me. Emily, you're so cruel to me, you're heartless. All his heartbreak and complaints, he could tell to the police. After Helen fell into the deep sea, the police launched a massive search and rescue. During the search, they found her on the shore. She could swim, probably came up on her own. But her head suffered severe trauma, and she's still in the middle of a critical rescue. I've secured my spot in graduate school, and Dad wants me to manage the family business first. Using what I learned in those wasted 7 years of my past life, I successfully took over Helen's family's business piece by piece. And I wouldn't kill her personally, but I won't leave her with anything either. I wanted to see Helen become an ordinary person, her arrogant spirit worn down by life. It's just a shame Helen will never open her eyes to see her world again. Helen's brain took a heavy hit, and the rescue delay led to untimely medical intervention. She's now in a vegetative state. As for William, with his deliberate murder, he's been sent to prison, where he'll spend his days in darkness. And me, I've gained not just a new life but also new insight and understanding. In this life, all I want is to live well, ensuring my loved ones are safe and happy. William's mistakes don't define everyone. He's gotten what he deserved, and I'll keep moving forward, towards a brighter future.